Hello and a warm welcome to Budget Yatra. On the show today, we continue to find ourselves on the Chennai leg of our Yatra, tracking the health of the auto component space and what the sector needs from the upcoming union budget. Now, the last few years across the country have seen a sustained push towards EV adoption, a move that has left the component sector at a crossroads of sorts. It elicited questions along the lines of, do India's auto component companies have what it takes to make that shift? And can the shift take place amid tariff pressures and persisting supply chain interruptions? I caught up with two of the most dynamic minds in the component space, Aditya Ganesh of Rane Madras Limited and Sriram Viji of Brakes India, to find out what the sector needs from Budget 2026.
I think the biggest word that sort of characterizes this period is uncertainty. I think a lot has happened in the last 6 months. We've had multiple tariffs starting with 25, certain products going at 50. So there has certainly been a rupee impact on every product that goes out of India. Having said that, the short-term impacts are not felt as much because the product development cycles are typically longer in automotive. So immediate supplies have not been affected as much as one would have anticipated. However, we anticipate that over the next 2 to 3 years, businesses that typically get settled now start production in 2027 or 28. Those programs are being delayed or decisions are being delayed because of this uncertainty. So I think it has been a challenging period, and it continues to be that until we see some policy or decision from either government.
Right. So Sriram, no immediate impact on order books then, but things don't exactly look the greatest for the foreseeable future, you'd reckon?
No, that's absolutely right. And if you just think about the auto component industry, we have a total turnover of about $80 billion within India. $20 billion is exported, out of which a little over $6 billion goes directly to the US and North America. So there's a big portion of sales from the component industry that's going into tariff regions. So I think it's quite critical for us to have, as Aditya said, some certainty around where this is going. And in the short term, there are impacts when people are quoting for new programs 2 to 3 years out. We don't know what the situation will be. So I think there are certain benefits and support from the government that could help benefit many of the players in this space.
Right. And it's interesting that we're actually having this conversation at this time and place, because even as we speak, gentlemen, the fact remains that the tariffs notwithstanding, supply chain pressures continue to be a bit of a bugbear insofar as the sector is concerned. The post-COVID supply chain situation, for a start, hasn't quite been too encouraging. What's the scene like? Have supply chain issues settled? Do you still contend with the fact that you're seeing a bit of a shortfall on the supply side? Maybe I'll start with you, Aditya. What are things like at the moment?
I think that's a great question. I think what we learned post-COVID is to endure and make sure that production lines do not stop. I think certainly post-COVID, the immediate impact was very hard, but I think recently after the semiconductors, we have had challenges with rare earths, for example. But I think industry has managed to secure supply lines for as necessary for domestic production, and that has been the pattern for the last 3 months. Again, uncertainty is a theme here, so we only take each day and each month as it comes. But as it stands now, domestic production has not seen a big impact, although it has been every day battling to make sure that there is no impact.
But Sriram, I think the one enduring as well part of the industry is the fact that despite the supply chain pressures that you've seen in the last half a decade, the industry has continued to grow. You've seen a growth in order books. The recent GST rationalization has in no small part also contributed to a rise in both sentiment and volumes as well, to an extent that you're seeing automobiles continue sales well past the traditional festive season itself. So surely some light at the end of the tunnel in what, like Aditya says, has been a theme of uncertainty that has persisted.
No, that's absolutely right. I think there is a lot of positive sentiment in the industry, and India is a growing country. I mean, we have an extremely large population, an aspiring population. So I don't doubt the industry will grow. But there are obviously challenges, and I think with high growth comes also a lot of risk. And as people look at investing, they want some certainty around where things will go. As you talked about in the last half a decade, if you see, you can label every year. The year of the container shortage, a year of the chip shortage, a year of the rare earth shortages. So I think we've had many challenges to deal with. And as an industry, we've learned to cope with volatility, right? We've just had to deal with this throughout. But if you look at where some of the countries have grown in the past, I think India has a long way to go and a steep curve that we should expect up ahead. And I think that's why we need a little bit more certainty that will help the industry invest and really get to its potential. Right? We do have an aspiring population and we want to be able to service that.
Absolutely. So I'm just curious now, Aditya, how do you cope? How do you get by despite the shortage, despite the rare earth crisis that we find ourselves in right now? And even as this EV transition is also upon us, what's the coping mechanism like and how has the industry been getting by?
I think what COVID taught us is very quickly to find ways to have visibility across supply chain and within supply chain as deep as possible. Not only directed by OEMs, but we have developed our own systems to have quick response and visibility of stock levels, container availability, freight, etc. So I think our systems have upgraded as a result of COVID. And coming to the second part of your question on EV, I think EV is here in India. We are seeing vehicles of very high quality being produced by Indian OEMs. And I think Indian tier ones have scaled up to make sure that we can supply to them. Many Indian tier ones also export to EVs across the world. So I think EVs, while the progression may not be as fast as anticipated, India tier ones are ready and are continuing to invest to grow in that area.
Right. But I'm also curious, and I'm hoping that I could get some answers from both of you. Even as that EV transition is well and truly upon us, there's been a lot of talk about how exactly this will impact the component space. For decades now, legacy businesses, much like yours, have been tuned towards building for ICE. And how is this poised to change the way you go about doing business, Sriram, if I may? Is there scope for product diversification? Is this an opportunity or is it more of a threat?
So the question about how EV will impact the industry, I think many people have talked about, but each company, as you look at, it's really dependent on the products you make. If you are a company that's really dependent on components you've made for IC engines for decades now and tuned and perfected that product, it is going to go obsolescence, right? So I think there will be a huge challenge for some of those companies. And it's not easy to say, today I'm making these engineered IC components, tomorrow I will make an equivalent EV component. The nature of products, whether it's, electronics, motors, it's completely different for an EV versus a IC engine supplier. There are also many players, for example, any chassis players who are not as affected, right? So Brakes India will not go under the same transformation that an engine supplier like a turbocharger supplier would go through. Right. So I think it is very dependent on the company that is going through the transition. It is surely going to shake up the industry, and I think people are wondering how to make that transition effectively. It's a tough one.
Now, we've spent some time on the road covering all that Chennai's auto components sector expects from Budget 2026, and we thought, why not make some time for a break? So with an early morning shoot done and dusted, I've decided to make a pit stop for breakfast to try out one of the city's favorite dishes. You guessed it, Pongal. With Tamil Nadu's Harvest Festival Pongal just days away, Chennai-based restaurant chain Geetham has decided to serve up not one, not two, but 8 varieties of Pongal. Now, for those of you who may not be aware, Pongal itself is a dish made of rice and lentils, whipped up to serve up a rich, creamy texture. And to join us in digging into this delectable delight is Mr. Murali Bhatt, the founder of Geetham, and his daughter Akshaya, who heads marketing here at the restaurant chain. Mr. Murali, let me start with you. What is it about Pongal that makes it everyone's favorite dish?
See, Pongal always will be the basic food for Tamil Nadu. So that's a tasty one. And Geetam always will celebrate each and every festivals. And Pongal also it has taken as a different view, and we have introduced some 7 varieties including all millets and
Right. So we'll come to the varieties that you're serving in just a bit, but let me start with you, Akshaya. Supposing someone from here hasn't had much of breakfast here in Tamil Nadu and wants to try out something that they would particularly enjoy, which dish would you recommend?
I think everybody comes here for the idli and dosa. But my personal favorite is definitely the Tengapal Kanji that we've also launched in our restaurant. So I think people should definitely try that.
All right, sounds good. Now, coming back to the 8 varieties of Pongal that you're serving this festive season and, of course, for Pongal itself, why 8 varieties? What are they all about?
So we actually wanted to bring different platter to the table, different traditional values also. So we try to do it with different millets and small grains that people actually used to cook with before. So we've tried to if you see the platter here, we try to have different varieties in both sweet and the savory pongal. So we have the traditional akkara vadisal that used to be served as prasadam, and we've tried to bring that, and the kurumilagu pongal that used to be also a prasadam that they give in the temples and everything. So we've tried to bring in different palettes that's celebrated across Tamil Nadu also to the table, so people can enjoy everything in one place.
All right, and with Pongal done and dusted, I have to ask you again, Mr. Murali, with the union budget just days away, or weeks away rather, what are some of the things that you feel the industry or the common man can look forward to from the budget itself?
See, the latest view also, the budget also, there's a lot of benefits to the customers. But right now, what the industry's expectation is input credit. Because already the restaurant is burning with the tax and other things, but there is no input credit. So the restaurant as well as the rental also, 18% we are burning, but there is no input credit. If that is all is there, it will be a very useful to the industry.